Congressman King is joining us tonight from Washington, D.C. to talk more about this. Congressman, how are you?
Liz, I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I am well. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good.
Let's talk
My
about
pleasure.
the mosque, the Cordoba House Mosque. You were on a conference call today with Gary Bernstein. He is from Long Island, like you are, a candidate for Senate, and he says that he thinks the mosque is illegal. You do not believe that that's the case, but you do think it should be investigated?
Yeah, basically, you know, freedom of religion, it's very difficult to restrict a house of worship from being constructed. But my concern is, first of all, as far as I can tell, I have the right to put the mosque there. I think it's inappropriate, and it's very insensitive. I mean, I have, between my original district and the new district I got in 2002, probably over 150 family members were killed on September 11th. So I have many widows, parents, brothers and sisters who I deal with all the time, and this is really a very raw wound for them. And they are really saddened and in some cases outraged by the thought of the mosque being constructed. My concern right now is that in view of the fact that there have been stories of overseas funding for this mosque or for the construction of this mosque, the fact that the imam who presents himself as being this moderate actually has been involved, for instance, with the group that launched a flotilla against Gaza, the fact that he, to this day, refuses to say whether Hamas is a terrorist organization. And in view of the fact that generally mosques and imams and Muslim leaders have been reluctant to cooperate with law enforcement, I believe that the very least we can do for the families of 9/11 is to have an investigation, to see where the funding is coming from, who exactly this imam is, not necessarily the image that he's presenting to the media and to the community. And then if there is significant finding against him or the mosque or the funding, then we can build up public opinion, perhaps get people in positions of power in New York City or the state to exert some pressure and just let the word get out that they would appreciate this mosque going somewhere else.
Okay.
Now, on the other hand, yeah.
Congressman, you actually just said you don't think that there's any real way to prevent this from happening. You once said you thought there were maybe too many mosques in America. Do you still feel that way?
No, actually, that was probably the only time in my career that I actually claim I'm misquoted. The full transcript of that was, no, and I mean that because I've always said that the overwhelming majority of Muslims are outstanding Americans. I was asked a question and I said, there are too many mosques in America, too many mosques that do not cooperate with law enforcement. So I was talking about the number of mosques that do not cooperate with law enforcement. And that's because that would have gone different from everything I've said, always said, that most Muslims in this country are loyal Americans, and the fact that under the freedom of religion in this country, you cannot stop a mosque, a church, a temple from being built. But also, you know, there is in a way, a bit of a double standard there. I remember when the Catholic nuns wanted to build a convent near Auschwitz, and there was like worldwide opposition to that. Now, I'm not saying that the legal position is the same in Poland as it is in New York, but I'm saying the moral outrage that was shown over that, and that was 50 years after the Holocaust, and there was still this feeling of outrage that you would have something of another religion constructed on what was considered sacred ground. And I think less than 10 years after 9/11, I can understand the feelings of people who feel that this mosque is sort of like in their face. But again, legally, it's going to be, I don't see any way it can be stopped, or it even should be stopped legally. But if enough public opinion can develop, like I saw, for instance, yesterday, apparently at the hearing in New York, there was actually even some Muslims, or at least who were quoted in the paper, even some Muslims are now saying that they feel it's inappropriate to have the mosque there.
But do you believe that this is an appropriate issue that is now a very big issue, actually, in the governor's race? I mean, I know you're a supporter of Rick Lazio, and also you see, not just the governor's race, actually all these statewide races, pressure on Chuck Schumer to take a position from Gary Bernstein and from Jay Townsend, the other Republican who's trying to oust him. I mean, is this a fair political issue? Should it be not perhaps taken out of the political realm because it gets so overheated and people get so upset that maybe the discussion is getting a little bit skewed?
No, first of all, I definitely believe it should be part of the political debate. It should be part of the public debate that we have. But there also is an obligation on people in public life to keep the debate at a civil level and at a reasonable level, because it is very easy to turn people against each other based on religion or ethnic background or race. I realize that. That's why I think I've been very measured in what I've said, and why I believe that Andrew Cuomo, who, by the way, is a good friend of mine, but I believe that as Attorney General, attorneys general have broad power to look into foundations and organizations. And I believe this comes within the purview of his office, and I believe that Congressman Rick Lazio, has made a legitimate request in the race for governor that this be investigated.
Now, actually, Carl Palladino, who's another candidate for governor, thinks that this is a federal issue and, in fact, should be investigated by Eric Holder, the U.S. Attorney General. What about that? I mean, he says it could actually be a violation of the Patriot Act.
No, I don't see the violation of the Patriot Act unless people come forward with evidence showing that there was actually al-Qaeda funding involved or al-Qaeda operatives. I have no reason to suspect that at this stage. I think there could be connections with groups that could be considered extreme or considered, for instance, a group involved with the flotilla that went to Gaza. Yeah. That doesn't make them al-Qaeda, but it certainly can make them more extreme than what this imam lets on to be. So that, to me, is more of a public political debate, political in the best sense of the word. But as far as the Patriot Act, if anyone has any evidence, obviously, but I don't see it at this stage.
I actually also wanted to talk to you about a report that we're seeing today. We're seeing pressure being ramped up from the Democratic U.S. Senators, Chuck Schumer and Kirsten Gillibrand, on BP in connection with the Lockerbie bombing. Where are you in this particular issue? They would like to see whether BP helped facilitate the release of this guy who, so in exchange for the right to drill in Libyan waters. I mean, you are a Homeland Security expert. You're the ranker now on that committee. Is this a legitimate issue?
Yeah, it really is. And in a bipartisan way, I will stand with Senator Schumer and Senator Gillibrand, Senator Menendez. And I believe there should be a full investigation of this. This goes back to, I guess, 2007, where there's indication of correspondence involving Jack Straw, who was in the British cabinet at the time. Right. And the whole idea that somehow this is in Britain's benefit, BP's benefit. And it also seems pretty clear that the medical analysis, or the medical report that was done on this Lockerbie terrorist was phony. That
well, he's still
they never
alive,
believed he was
right?
going to be dying.
He's still alive.
He's still alive, and
right.
And even the doctor, my understanding is that at least one of the doctors has said that there was never any real thought that he was going to die at such an early stage. So, no, this would clearly be blood money. And this warrants a full investigation. I don't care whether Democrats do it, no matter who, it should be done. And I think BP, especially when you add on what happened in the Gulf, where they have such a poor track record for integrity and for reliability, and then if you add to it the blood money of